views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. I think it goes without saying that many of us have dreams that go unrealized because of health concerns, money concerns, family concerns, and any number of other obstacles we don't achieve to our capacity. And even more dangerous, we concede things that we want and assume that we cannot get them. Well, tonight's guest has coined a term for that. He calls it dreamicide, the killing of your dreams. And he has a new book out, that is this one. It is Overcoming Dreamicide, which is a complete guide, a roadmap to hope and making your dreams come true. He is fond of saying an ounce of action weighs more than a ton of intentions. He's an incredibly engaging, motivational speaker, and with the new book, he's laid it out that it is possible that you and me too can see our dreams come true. How can it be done? We will find out tonight. I thought we would depart from what we usually do and let's introduce our guest this way. Let's take a look at the video from his website.
What has pursuing my dreams done for me? The question is, what hasn't it done for me? I remember the day that I decided that I was going to go ahead and pursue my goals. I mean, there was a level of peace of mind that I was able to gain. And I see people who get up, and I was once that way too, who get up every day doing what they need to do to make an honest living, but aren't honestly living. And the reason being is if you're not pursuing your passion, pursuing your goals, you don't have life on your terms. So every day I get up now and I get to play sports. I get to, go to the gym and work out at times that I want to work out, as opposed to just getting up and working for someone else. And that's not a problem to do. But if you really want to experience life to the fullest extent, you got to get up every morning doing what you love and loving what you do. And no, not in the beginning. It doesn't seem like it's going to work out in the beginning, but here's the one thing that I know. Money will never make your passion, but your passion could make you a whole lot of money. We all are blessed with talents, abilities, gifts, and skills, and these things can help us to rise to higher levels in life. But it takes us having the courage. And when I stepped out to say, hey, I was going to go into this industry of trying to empower others, I didn't know what was going to come out of it. But since then, things have happened, doors have opened. And it's like what Tony Robbins said, the secret to living is giving. It's really about giving your all and giving back to your community, giving back to your world, and empowering others. So this journey of pursuing and really living the dream has really opened up doors. You get to live life on your terms. You get to do the things that you love with the people who you love. So what is it going to take for all of us to do what is necessary to answer the calling that we were made for, as opposed to settling for the job that we get paid for? It's all up to us. And if every one of us decides and makes the decision to just pursue the dreams that we have in our lives, I believe this world would be a much better place, a lovelier place, and a place where we could experience peace of mind.
All right, there he is. Please join me in welcoming back to BronxTalk a personal growth expert, the CEO of Aim High International, my longtime friend, Sherman Brown. Nice to have you with us.
It's good to be here, Gary.
It's always great to see you. I know some of the answers to this, but I want to start this way. How did you get into this? How did you get into the idea? I mean, I realize a lot of things led to the book, but get into the idea that you wanted to be somebody who could motivate others.
Well, Gary, it's funny because this really started back in 2011. It's funny because on the day that my grandmother died, October 25th, 2011, I remember I was in Mount Sinai Hospital, and while I was sitting there with her, what bothered me about our discussions is that she kept on talking about all the things she could have done, should have done, and would have done if she had more time. Absolutely. And my grandmother did a whole lot of great things. I mean, when I moved here to New York, she was the one who took care of me. But when she died at that time, I remember I was saying to myself, look, I don't want to live my life making this honest living but not honestly living. And at that point in time, I said, you know what, I need to take what my grandmother said to me and make this a part of her legacy. How could I go out there and encourage other people, just like I was trying to do for myself, to live whatever dreams, whatever goals you have? And I started doing that by going to schools. I was speaking with students in schools. I started getting called to speak in colleges and in different areas. And somebody came up to me one day and they said, are you a motivational speaker? And I said, well, what's that? I had no clue what it was, because my reason for doing it was just to carry out my grandmother's legacy. But they said, no, there's plenty of people who do it. And they showed me all these videos. And from there, I said, well, look, if this is something that I could do to really impact the world in a different way, to leave a mark on this world, I certainly want to expand. And that's what was really the genesis of everything that I decided to do.
Many people who do this kind of work, you know, they'll do it and they have great intentions and they have great energy and they speak well in front of people, all of which, you know, you can check mark. Yes, Sherman does all that stuff. But you did a lot of research. You have, you know, and throughout this book, it's not just Sherman telling you what he thinks. You go into what a lot of other people said, what such and such an expert said. You didn't do it halfway, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We went all in. We wanted to make sure that this wasn't just something that we were speaking of based off of what we thought, but what the actual research really says. So when we combine the academic research, when we combine some of my experiences as well as stories of achievers who've already accomplished these goals, we combine them together to develop this book, and that's why it's so powerful.
I listed at the top of the show many of the things, and money, employment, family issues, health issues. These are significant issues in people's lives. I have them, you have them, we all have them. And you started the book with what many people will remember was a big news story in the Bronx, as a matter of fact. In September of 2010, the Fellowship Christian Assembly Church in the Bronx was taking a trip, I guess, to a seminar or a lecture, and 6 were killed, 8 were injured in just an absolutely horrific bus accident. Now, we were going to have one of the people who survived that here with you. She couldn't make it. That's just the way it is. And I'm just going to continue here. According to the book, she was ejected from the vehicle, dragged along the road, ultimately airlifted to Jacoby Medical Center, was in a coma for 6 days. The list of injuries, you can't imagine anybody you know, coming back from this. Back was broken, hips dislocated, shoulders jolted, face scarred, neck fractured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're, I guess, about to tell us she's kind of okay now, or she's moving forward with her life despite being told she'd never walk again and all these other things. Talk about that.
Absolutely. We're talking about Miss Miriam Edwards, and this is a woman who I admire so much because she is the epitome of what it means to overcome dreamicide. Here it was, she was in this horrible accident, and at the point in time, her family members in Jamaica were talking about her funeral. They were planning the funeral, but she didn't die. And while the doctors looked at her and said to her, look, you know what, I don't think you'll ever be able to walk again, what they didn't recognize is that although she had this near-death experience, she didn't allow it to become a death sentence for her dreams. So what she said is, look, I want to go to college. I want to educate myself. And when I met her at the time, she was coming in on a wheelchair. And Gary, when I look at this woman, her first words to me were, I used to know God by knowledge, but today I know him by faith. And when she said that to me, she said, because I have life. And because I have life, I have hope. I'm going to do whatever I need to do so that I could live my dreams. And what she wanted to do was go to college and graduate college. And she was able to do that. She went to college. Not only did she go, but she was in the top of her class, 4.0 GPA, right? Graduated summa cum laude. And when she walked on the stage at Madison Square Garden, it was so amazing to see this woman who once was told that she would never walk again to be walking, but to live her dreams at the same time.
Well, 2 questions. Sorry, I have so many questions. Number one, when did you become in contact with her, and were you part of kind of that transformation? And then what was it in her? Because if we could find, each of us could find some of that energy, maybe we could all do better. So number one, when did you get in contact with her? And number two, what was it that helped her go from that horrible state to even doing better?
Yeah, actually, so the first day when she actually came to the college campus, I just happened to be there that day, and the dean of admissions at the time said to me, hey, Sherman, could you say some encouraging words to this young woman?
Because she's had a hard time.
Absolutely. And when he said that to me, I said to her, you know, I listened to her story, and I said to her, look, I think you're a modern day miracle. And what I believe is that when you graduate from college, when you finish this process, people will hear your story and it'll inspire people all around the world. And what happens is she was going through college, taking her classes. We would see each other once in a while, but she took 3 courses with me. And when we took
you
those
are
3
a
courses,
professor.
yes, absolutely. So we took those 3 courses together and we would talk on a regular basis. And when I would hear, the struggles, the setbacks she was going through, all of those things, we would talk about how could we continue to execute. So we worked together for those 3 semesters. She graduated. The last class she took at the college was actually with me, and now we're still connected, still working together.
And what do you tell somebody like that? And like, what can you say? I mean, I would say, yeah, come on, do the best you can or whatever. But what do you think you said that really resonated, that helped her do
Yeah,
better?
well, Gary, here's the thing. I think when we go through situations in life, we go through tough times in life, so often our history becomes a point where it should be a point of reference. It becomes our residence. We live there. We stay there. We say, this is where I'm at. This is what it's going to be. And one of the things that I told Miriam when I met her, I said, look, I understand you've been through this accident. I understand you've been through these tough times. But the one thing you have to understand is that you will never be able to move towards your greatest destiny if you're being held captive by your history. So you have to think about those situations that you've been through, but to say, look, maybe this is the opportunity for me to prove and to show that I could overcome no matter what the situation is. So we had to, so it's one thing to talk, but it's actually to put it into action. And we had to do some strategic planning, some game planning for how we were going to actually get that done.
And so number one is getting, I guess, the confidence that it can be done. And then, I use the word roadmap. You've used it in this book.
Yes.
There is a roadmap to get there. And it's not just, well, as I said earlier, a motivational speaker says, go out and do it. You got to figure out how to do it. I have to laugh. And folks, you got to appreciate this. When I do the research and I read a book, that somebody is coming on the show, I try to jot down some of the quotes that would be worthwhile. This book is so filled with stuff. I had 7 pages of notes. I said, I'm never going to get to it. But among the many quotes that are in this book, I just thought this was fantastic. They say you can live for 40 days without food, 3 days without water, 8 minutes without air, but not 1 second without hope. I thought that was, what an extraordinary way of looking at the world. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's the key to life, right? One author once said that the key to happiness in life is having something to do, something to love, but more importantly, something to hope for. Hope is really the gateway to all of our dreams. And you could not eat food for a couple days, right? You might not have water, but if you don't have hope, if you don't have hope, if you don't have a belief in yourself, if you don't have something to look forward towards, that's when you end up giving up. And I look at it this way. You might not physically die at that point in time, but the minute you give up on your dreams, the minute you give up hope, you're already dead. And
Committing
what happens,
dreamicide.
You're committed dreamicide. And all you're doing right now is waiting for your ceremonial funeral.
There were so many great quotes, and again, the quotes aren't going to get us from here to there, but they're going to get us started. So we have one we can put up on the screen, because this is the one that's like right at the front of the book. And so if we got it, we could put it up on the screen, from Dr. Miles Monroe,
Yes.
and maybe you want to comment on that. The poorest man in the world is the man without a dream. The most frustrated man in the world is a man with a dream that never becomes reality. Talk to me about why that was so important to put right at the
Well,
end
the
of
reason why that was important, Dr. Miles Monroe, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, is someone who I really admired. He was someone who was a speaker, also a pastor, did so much great work around the world. But I think that his quote really encapsulated everything that I believe, right? The poorest man in the world. You have nothing if you don't have a dream. You have nothing if you don't have a goal, if you don't have an aspiration. But the man who's the most frustrated in the world is the one who has this dream, who has this idea, but never makes it a reality. And it's something that I see happen over and over and over again. And I think the reason why it was important to put it in the very beginning, because so many people live this life frustrated because they have these goals, these dreams, these aspirations, but they never make it real. And that's why the book becomes a roadmap for how to accomplish your dreams.
You know, we try to deal with reality on this program, because people in the Bronx won't accept any less or any different.
True.
If we didn't deal with that,
Absolutely.
they wouldn't believe a word that we said. Poverty is rampant in the Bronx. We know that we're last in health care. I mean, I could list other negative issues. Of course, we deal with positivity as well. I could see somebody, and I guess you could understand, somebody who says, you know what, I have tried. I want to be X, Y, Z, but I got no money. I got no heat now. I'm living in public housing. We know what's going on in public housing. My daughter is ill. My son has asthma. And all of a sudden, so this idea that one day I'm going back to school or becoming a lawyer, or this dream I had that we're going to move to Connecticut one day, it just is not going to happen. It's like, how do you deal with that, and how can you address somebody in that circumstance? I personally have tremendous empathy for somebody like that, because it's tough out here in the BX,
Yeah, absolutely, and it's tough, and it's hard, and it's not easy, but it is possible. And the reason being is because if you look back at examples, person after person who's been able to do it, who's been able to accomplish it, you recognize that this is not something that people just think about, right? So if you think about somebody like Kevin Hart is a widely successful comedian, but
right.
Yet he was turned down many times when he was trying to get into the comedy industry, right? You have somebody like Ariana Huffington, who was turned down by 36 publishers before she ever got out there, right? You have Oprah Winfrey, who went through the stuff that she went through. All of these stories that we have here, and if you heard her speech, the other day, powerful, powerful speech, right? And when we look at these individuals, the stories are always the same. We see the glory, but there's a background story. And for the most part, many of these people came from poverty, came from bad backgrounds. I grew up in the Virgin Islands. My mother only made $11,000 a year. She was raising both my brother and I. And while she was raising us up, I didn't even know that we were living in poverty. I thought it was natural for the kitchen to be the living room and the bedroom at the same time. I thought it was natural to go in the house and only have water and bread and take the water, pour it on top of the bread so that I could have the sensation of a full meal. But how is it that we take those situations, those setbacks, those conditions, and transform them into opportunities for growth to go to another level? There's a level of belief you need to have.
I was going to ask you, how is it that we do that? And you say it's belief, and it goes back to that quote about hope.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have this video that I'd asked you if you could send me a video, and people who look close can see that I happen to be in the room at the same time. Because I wanted to give people a sense, because one of the things I know is most gratifying to you is you work with young people. And it's one thing to deal with adults who have various issues and have been along the way. But it's another thing to take young people who have not seen hope or have not seen opportunity with their own eyes and get them to believe it. So we're going to show it. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, this is, I guess, a couple of years ago or something?
Yeah, last year.
Last year, okay, at the Bronx's DeWitt Clinton High School. And this is Sherman Brown doing what he does best, inspiring young people. Let's take a look.
Greetings, everyone. Sherman Brown here. Look, I just read this interesting statistic. They said that over 20,000 New York City high school students drop out every year. And today we're here at DeWitt Clinton High School, where we're going to be talking to students about the need for them to commit to complete. So we're about to go in here, man. Looking forward to talking with these students. Clinton High School, are we in the house? If you're really committed to graduating, put those banners up. Yo, let me hear you over here. Put those banners up. You see, when your principal introduced me, he said that I'm a motivational speaker. He said that I'm a college professor. And often it's easy to look at where somebody is now, see the glory, but don't understand the story. Sometimes people don't understand where you come from. And where you come from has a big role to play in where you go. But the one thing that I can tell you, I don't care where you live, your geography doesn't have to write your biography. So do me a favor right now and listen to me very closely. Because even when you fall like rain and it hurts like pain, you're still hot like fire, gotta burn like flame. Listen. You see, these last few years had you going insane, studied hard, read books, you had a class, got brains. Listen. Graduate from high school, make your whole life change. Suits you will be rocking, the ties you will be matching them. Cap and gown on, walking out, relaxing them. Gotta keep the swagger turned up to the maximum. Listen. Clinton High School, the world ain't ready yet. Yeah, you got swag, but you still got your intellect. So go until the day you retire. We gotta keep it going while we yelling more fire.
You know, we just put your email address up there, so if there are people who want to contact you, without even asking you ahead of time, of course, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
One of the things I like about the book, and by the way, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I'm going to make him rap before we leave here. So, but one of the things about the book that I actually enjoyed and was incredibly impressed on, again, the same kind of thing, you get these motivational things. There's actually a workbook. There's actually kind of workbook pages,
Yes.
almost like a textbook, so that you can develop your skills. Talk to me about that process and why and how that helps somebody visualize. I guess I'm answering my own question. Visualize where they're going to be.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, Gary. I always say this, right? Information without application is only fascination. And most people fantasize about what they want to do. They talk about it. It's a broad goal, but they never really take the time to write it down and to map it out. So what I decided to do in the book is that I wanted to provide exercises for people to be able to track their progress, track what they're doing. Because when you sit down and you actually write this thing out, when you write out your plans and you look at it step by step, you're able to see how far you're getting. So often people feel like, I want to give up because they're not able to measure their progress. They're looking at the prize, they're looking at the end result, and they don't recognize that sometimes the process is the prize. So when we have these workbooks and these exercises that are in there.
The process is the prize.
Process,
Somebody write that down.
Absolutely. The process is the prize. That's what it is. So it's not about what you accomplish or what you get, but it's who you become as a result of the process. So what we do is in the book, we give you these worksheets so that you could actually map it out, write down these things so that you could go back to it as a point of reference. And every couple months, every couple weeks, you're able to go back and you could say, look how far I've came with this goal, with this dream. And it keeps you motivated and wanting to continue to move forward.
You put something in there. There was a little chart, and I'm still laughing over it. And when people hear it, it's like amazing. Facebook, the most popular media provider in the world, creates no content.
Yes.
Uber, the world's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Instagram, the most valuable photo company, sells no cameras. Netflix, the largest growing television network, lays no cables.
True.
What does that say about what it takes to be successful in the world?
Well, that point is in there to say you have to eliminate the excuses. Most people talk about, I don't have the resources, I don't have the money, I don't have the things.
I don't have a car, so I can't start a taxi company.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. You see somebody like Uber now, they start the company just by using a software. You see, most of the time we consume the media that we look at. We consume the technologies. But we don't try to think or figure out, how could I actually use this technology to propel me to another level? These companies are perfect examples. They weren't real. Those things didn't exist. But these were ideas that they had that they made a reality because they were willing to push the limits, right? So there's a system in place. You could find the system, study the system, but then you have to disrupt the system. And all of those companies were disruptors in the system as we knew it. And every person who reads this book who has a dream, you could be a disruptor in your industry or for whatever it is you want to accomplish.
One of maybe a million phrases that are worthwhile in there. Picture it, plan it, pursue it. That's what you talk about. All right, I'm putting you on the spot. You can rap about anything you want. And I've listened to Sherman's raps for years. So what do you got? You got something good?
All right, let me
Something
think
good
through
for
it.
the
All
bride?
right, so let's see. Look, as the world turns, we all go through the pain and struggle, but still juggle with the hope of being successful tomorrow. Some think they may not make it, but they are sadly mistaken. The journey's just begun, and they're quickly accelerating to higher heights with a vision beyond sight. They're so bright that many are blinded by their light, shining stars, and they are doing their thing. Overcoming Dreamicide, keep doing your thing, and as we do it, we will rebuke all negativity, take steps forward, and make your dreams a reality.
There we go. All right. On the spot. You know, I was really moved to ask you this. What are your dreams? And do you feel like you've fulfilled them? or are you still working them? And do you have the kind of plan that you're recommending, or did you have the kind of plan that you're recommending for other people?
Well, here's the thing, Gary. I never wanted to be the person who spoke about it and who wasn't doing it. I think that most people allow their egos to write checks that their character can't cash. And for me, I wasn't going to live in that way. So my dream is to impact as many people as possible, to impact millions of people by providing them the tips, the tools, the techniques that help them to develop the mindset, the methods, and the metrics to keep their dreams alive. So in order to accomplish those dreams, I've started a number of initiatives that allows for that. The Aim High Empowerment Institute is a program that we run in schools throughout New York City. Just as of this year, we just exploded. We're in 6 schools right now where we're working with students every day.
High school level?
At high school level, actually at every level of the educational pipeline,
Great.
from elementary straight through college. Because what we're also doing is with the Aim High Empowerment Institute, we're building this accountability line. So we take college students and bring them to high schools students to middle school students to elementary schools. And what we're doing is helping them see the next level that they're trying to achieve. So my goal is to get programs like what we use in the Aim High Empowerment Institute throughout, make it a national model through schools throughout the United States of America. In addition to that, and also internationally as well. I'm from the U.S. Virgin Islands. We want to do it down there as well. But I also want to have something for adults as well. So we are developing programs where we could have online courses where individuals could come there and they could get the strategies, again, the tips, the tools, and the techniques to live their greatest dreams. The reason why that's important to me is because this is a part of the legacy, and I believe legacy is greater than currency.
You know, and then he always gives me a reason to think one step further. One of the things that I really did enjoy is that you, and you've alluded to it here, you interwove your personal experiences with the conceptual things and some of the other things that you did. Did you fill out little things like this, even literally or in practice? You did.
Absolutely.
To get to that dream that you're talking about.
Absolutely. So Gary, here's the thing that I use in part of the book. The things that I'm telling people to do, I'm showing them exactly what I did as well and how it was able to work for me as well as others. So those charts that are in there, there's no chart that's in there that I haven't used myself.
Yourself. Wow.
Absolutely. You know, so.
Listen, we're out of time. As he knows, I could talk to him forever. Overcoming Dreamicide is the book. And, you know, what's the email if people want to get to you and say, you know what, I'm stuck, but I want to know how to move forward?
Yeah, so they can send an email to sbrown, that's Brown with an E at the end, at aimhighei.org.
I recommend the book. I recommend we start, and I'm not excluding myself, thinking positively, finding ways to do things, not conceding that things can't happen. Right on time for Martin Luther King Day, aren't
Absolutely.
we? That's exactly what it's all about. The great Sherman Brown, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
And folks, we're going to overcome Dreamicide together, right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
how we
absolutely.
do it. Love to hear it coming from a guy from the Bronx. Don't you love that? If you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, this is what's happening in the Bronx, I'll tell you that. You can email it to us, BronxTalk@BronxNet.org. And if you want to get in touch with Sherman and you didn't get his address, you get it to me and I'll get you to him. You can send a tweet at BronxTalk or post them on our Facebook page and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of our program. Our archives are at BronxNet.org. You'll find Bronx Talk by following the Watch menu on the nice new BronxNet website. Our producer is Helen Greenberg. Our director is William Guzman. We thank them. We thank him. We thank you. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.